So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found Care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out Care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
The following is a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat Questions podcast, presented by Fridge Wholesale Liquor, and it starts right now. Now, let's go to the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. Here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. I am Tim Fitzgerald. Riley Gates and Zach Carlson are alongside, but not literally. For the first time, we are Zoom, a podcast where we are all in three different areas. Welcome, boys. I can hear Zach swallowing his drink. It's a whole new world. On. Yep. God, he looks good. Yeah, I see him. I can't see his giant head. I just see his eyes down. There he is.
This is not actually good radio for anybody listening, but for us watching each other, it's funny.
It's fantastic. And I am recording this. I guess I'm getting the video, but I'm not going to do that. This is so less than ideal, as is everything right now, guys. But I was just telling Riley before we started, Zach, I'm turning on the TV and I'm watching national entities having to do this, and I kind of chuckle. Someone on a national news network was like standing in a tiled area, so it was echoing while they hosted their show, and I'm like, you got to have some common sense. You got to go someplace halfway quiet. That might be looking the best on camera, but it sounds like crap. Though after this show for The Walking Dead, Talking Dead, they were all at home, Zooming just like us. It's crazy. Man. A national show, and they're Zooming. So it is the world in which we live. As far
Al
as
Roker's doing the weather on his laptop.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I was somewhat prepared because I'd already set up this in-home studio and didn't have to panic do it. I guess I had some foresight for once in my life. I have a little home studio. Before I forget again, we're sponsored by The Fridge. I think they're still open, Riley. I don't know that they're close. Yeah, okay. I love America. We are closing all but non-essential businesses, so pharmacies, grocery stores, drive-through windows, and liquor stores are open.
Quick side rant on that. I went to a liquor store that was like, yeah, you can't come inside, but you can go to the drive-through, right? I'm like, okay. I had more hand-to-hand contact, and they touched my items way more in that setting than they would have when I just go in and take it off the shelf.
I agree.
What the heck?
I know. I'm watching this video on TV of people going through like walk-up drive-through windows, like for restaurants that don't actually have a drive-through, and the guy standing 1 foot from them, handing them stuff, and I'm like, no.
If you got to take my card to pay, like I just kind of defeats the purpose of everything.
I agree.
Well, I saw a Burger King commercial the other day where the lady had gloves on and put the food on a tray and handed it out the drive-through window. Say that it was ridiculous looking. But Burger King cares about you guys. They made an ad.
Man, they don't care about me.
But if the fridge is open, I'm good.
They made me eat an Impossible Whopper. That's the one thing the video didn't show when we filmed Riley and I doing the Impossible Whopper challenge, was that Burger King guy standing off to the side with a pistol. He made us do it. He forced us. That big giant king head, he forced us to do it. Looked like Lee Corso with a gun.
That's a great
Man, this is well, we're going to make do, and that's all we can do right now. In fact, guys, you probably haven't listened to it because, Riley, I can't make you listen to it anymore because you're not technically an employee anymore. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I launched the Life of Fitz podcast at midnight, and so the world can hear Kelly Stewart and I talk on the phone about crap. That's pretty much the concept. It's pretty much the high concept of the podcast. I can't leave my house, so I'm going to call my friends and record the phone conversations. Now, you got to keep in mind, they're not really the conversations I would have with some of these friends, but I can't share those details. But it's out there. We're still struggling to get it on Apple Podcasts. Apple's so elite.
That does make me... I have to go out of my way more to listen.
Our friend Connor Tappet 24/7 is going to share how to hack that problem by adding it through your phone or your iOS to get the podcast to download automatically, even if it's not listed. It's fancy. It's incredible. It's a hack. That's what we offer here is hacks, including my cough.
Is Tanner still serving food?
I believe so. Yeah. And you can go to that, God, what is it, that MHK site? I am so sorry I can't remember that right now. They've set up a really neat site where you can go order, you can order gift cards through the site, and then the Greater Manhattan Foundation matches that gift card with a donation to help out people that need it right now. So it's kind of cool. But you can at least order gift cards.
MHKtogether.org.
Thank you very much.
So we can go and do that.
Which is ironic because we're not together at all. We're all in our homes. This really is nice for me, Riley. I got to admit, this pandemic is working out for me. I don't have to go to the office.
Glad.
I don't have to go to the office. I don't really have to deal with people. I get to hang out with my wife and dogs all day in my home. And if the weather would turn nice enough, I got to get in the yard and do a little work. This pandemic is really, really nice for me. And by the way, Riley, yesterday, now that you're not with us, I wrote 3 non-columns for the website, 3 stories that were not columns for the website, thus topping my total for maybe the past 9 months, maybe longer, but I couldn't remember that. Brad Korn certainly helped that out. We'll get into Brad Korn leaving for Southeast Missouri State. But Riley, in case people haven't found out, you are now an employee of 24/7 Sports, not Spirit Street Publishing, a.k.a. GoPowerCat.com.
This would be correct. I have been promoted to the national desk at 24/7 Sports, and I am now a national news desk writer.
Scary. He controls the news. This is who controls the news across all platforms. Actually, to explain what that is you'll be doing much of the same stuff you've done for us, kind of the breaking news content that you've done at GoPowerCat, except for sites all across the network, and you will still do that on occasion for us. We have not leveraged the news desk very much because we had you, our own personal news desker. But now when something breaks, many times, sites across the network pitch it to the news desk and someone takes care of it nationally. So that's been...
Yeah, I mean, like this morning alone, Cam Newton got cut, so somebody was on that. There was, as I scroll back through the Slack channel here, which is insane, by the way, Coaches of the Year awards, Colin Cowherd's comments, things like that. Just basically anything that happens in sports, the desk writes it. And so I will be officially beginning this. I am on the clock Wednesday at 9 a.m. So
nice. I'm glad you're making a living now instead of living paycheck to paycheck.
It is nice.
This half is sponsored by Tanner's. Get into Tanner's when you can get in, but order your food from Tanner's. Go get a gift card through MHKtogether.org. Do all of those things. Support our sponsors. Support local business. I need to do a better job right now. Here's my theory, guys, on why the grocery stores are out of food. We never eat at home. We always go to restaurants. Grocery stores aren't stocked for everyone to cook their own food. Yeah, there's some hoarding going on, but it's we're actually having to cook our own food more, which is probably good for us, bad for restaurants, but grocery stores aren't used to that. So they're out.
I'm just living at my parents for a while and then eating all their food. So
I wish I could do the same. My mom's returning from Florida soon, and she will be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Even though she's in a really safe part of Florida because there was no spring break there, and it's really kind of northern rural, but still, lock her up. She's dangerous.
Lock her up.
Well, let's get started with your questions from Wabash Station. Zach is now the collector of the questions. Maybe there'll be a difference in how this podcast performs. We will see. Zach, get it going.
Starting us off as on your mark, set, spin. How does a coach handle this Carty exploring pro option situation in April recruiting? Is exploring options really adios because Bruce can't promise the summer for the prodigal son to return?
Yeah,
I love the analogy.
It is interesting. I think they'll sign someone if Donovan Williams pops up and says, hey, I want to go to K-State. They'll sign him.
Yeah.
Problem solved. I will say this. I believe Carty is also exploring senior transfer options if needed. I've heard a little birdie say. So I'm going to be surprised if he's back. I think Carty's trying to keep it in his back pocket as an option to have a place to be. But, if you're Bruce, you got to take care of things. And I know Carty's a great basketball player, and when he's good, he's really good, but you got to kind of calculate in all the other stuff that's gone on behind the scenes that fans may not be privy to with the disruptions.
Well, and then also if you're Bruce, you're in a really nice place if you're Bruce, honestly, right now with all the restrictions on recruiting and everything. Let's say Donovan Williams commits. He can't sign yet, but he's committed. Okay, well, now I've got time. I can sign him. I've got time to sit here and figure out if I want to push somebody else out the door, if Carty wants to come back, if he wants to take both of them in. He's got while he can't recruit and while that is bad for him as a coach, hey, I can't go out and I can't do a whole lot of recruiting, it also is a little bit of a benefit to him to have this time to figure things out, I think.
Right.
I'm still in the same boat as you. I don't see a scenario in where he's back. I just don't.
I see it, but I don't think it'll take place. I think at the end of the day, Bruce will want to break ties. He's just trying to, in typical Bruce fashion, and I mean this as a compliment, he's trying to do it in a elegant manner and not sloppy and make it a headline in itself. He's trying to just let the problem resolve itself instead of force it. And at some point, he might have to force it.
From Hurt as Joe, seriously, is Carty just looking or is he truly gone?
No, I think we answered that.
I was shocked to hear the pro thing, though. Weren't you?
No,
we'll get into that.
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. I think he's truly gone unless he can't be gone, and then he wants to come back. I think he wants to play basketball. Do I think he'd go to Europe over coming back to K-State? Yeah, I kind of do, but that's easier said than done. What if we're still not playing basketball and there's some uncertainty? I don't know what happens. It's a mess out there. I think he would come back as a last resort, but I think in his mind he's truly gone.
I really thought it would be done by now. So, I would say that I'm shocked by that, but I'm not sitting here going, oh, it's not done by now. Maybe that means he's coming back, things like that.
Yep.
From Adam K63, are you surprised that Cartier is taking the route of testing the NBA draft instead of being a grad transfer?
I didn't think he would enter the NBA draft before saying he was leaving K-State, if that makes sense. Like, I thought he would say, I'm going to leave K-State. I'm going to go to the NBA draft. If that doesn't work out, pursue other options. Because he's basically Barry again, although it's different.
I think this one's different in that all the guys that explored the NBA draft and really weren't doing it were, just seeing how they measured up. I think X was kind of really doing it last year and then didn't get the answer he wants. And I think we all realize Carty won't get an answer he likes. He's going to get a dose of reality, but I still think he's gone. I think he thinks he's an NBA guy right now. And, even Carty fans have to look at his game and how he handles the ball, and he's so turnover prone. He's not ready for the league in any way. He's not ready for the D-League. He's not ready for high international leagues. He's got a lot of game. He needs to play a lot of basketball. And I guess that would be the number one argument for him going is he just needs to play. He needs to get out and play, and he needs to make it his full-time job. He's got his degree, or he will have his degree, and just go to someplace and play a lot of basketball and get more experience, because that's what he lacks. He just hasn't played it for a lifetime. He came to it kind of late, and you can see it in his game sometimes. The instinctive things aren't always there. So I'm not surprised. I think he fancies himself, to use a British word, as an NBA guy.
I mean, that's probably why we're so down. I don't want to say downplaying it, but when we hear that Carty's probably going to test the NBA waters, we don't really take it all that seriously because we all know in the back of our minds he's not going to play in the NBA and he's probably not going to play in the G League next year. There was a scenario in where we saw Barry or X. Well, maybe they do play really well in the summer and they do sneak into the late second round or they do get a G League contract. We saw that envision, the slightest chance of that happening, even though it probably wasn't going to happen. We don't even see the slightest chance of that happening with Carty. So that's probably why it feels a little bit different, at least in my eyes.
From Itam Bibi, moving on to recruiting, Dejuan seemed to be the key player in the Lewis commitment. Did Lewis recruitment start from the coach or Dejuan? And are there any more players Dejuan can sway to K-State?
It started with the coaches because it started last year at Peach Jam. They've been friends. I can't tell you whether or not they've had conversations. Him and Dejuan had conversations before, but it wasn't to the point where Dejuan had really kind of experienced all this stuff at Peach Jam last year. I think it was more the coaches initiating that, and then obviously when you get a friend that helps recruiting you there, that's going to get you a little bit further along the way. But I mean, it sounded like for the last few months, really, that he had been kind of decided on K-State if they pulled the trigger. That's all he was waiting on was just the offer. And, he didn't even need a visit. I was shocked he didn't even make it here for a visit ever. If it was that serious on K-State's end of things, they didn't really host that many official visitors this year. I figured they'd toss one out to him, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good get late in the process. It's not a total reach. I think he's raw. I think he's got a lot to work on right now, but I think it is a decent one, especially if you miss on some of your other targets that are out there right now.
Agreed. I don't care how it came about. I kind of like this as a late grab. I think it's better than the typical Bruce Weber late edition. I mean, sometimes those are real reaches, and we've seen that play out in recruiting.
And kind of forcing, I don't want to say forcing Donovan Williams' hand, but you also get to sit here and say, okay, look, if you want to come to K-State, we're going to take you. We're going to have room for you. But we're also not going to sit here and let you string it out for another 2 months. If you're not interested, we're going to move on. So we need you to start making a decision here.
Yeah, you have to be really, really, really sexy to be the total backup plan. I mean, Riley, you're familiar with this. You've been the backup plan for a lot of women in the past. Zach, I don't know about you. But anyhow, they got to be hot for you to wait around, or you just say, hey, I'm not playing these reindeer games. We're going to go on. We're going to do my life as a single man instead of having you in it. Let's move on. I kind of got lost in that.
I like the reindeer games.
Yeah.
From Wrestling 1982.
Oh, yeah.
Have you talked to any of the current players about being called out by an incoming player? I don't think most of the guys returning. I mean, the only guys returning, wrap your mind around this. If Carty Ejada doesn't come back, the only guys returning are the 4 newcomers, Levi Stockard and Mike McGurl. And I think Mike and Levi, when pressed to it, would agree with that comment that they weren't playing hard at all times. This team didn't click, and nobody knows it better than the players that were on the team. I would imagine the guys in the upper class would probably take offense to it, the older guys, but they're going to be gone. So if you take a little offense to the truth, I'm sorry, but this is going to be a young team next year, and it's time to turn over the reins of leadership. And I think Mike will be a good example setter. Levi surprisingly moved into a person that was kind of demanding more from his teammates, which I hadn't seen any signs of that in the past, so that's positive. And I think the young guys, including David Sloan, who will also be a senior as a JUCO transfer, they're ready to take over. This is their show now, and they'll embrace the fact that team last year was not playing up to its standards of what K-State basketball expects or what they as hoopsters expect. I've never used that word before. It was really challenging.
Now, the other thing you got to know about Selton is that Selton is a very honest kid, and he's not going to say things And it put, like, I talked to Nigel Pack, and he said that K-State had one of the most talented teams in the country, but they just couldn't piece it together. And it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from. You don't want to talk bad about your team, but let's also not be ridiculous. They weren't one of the most talented teams in the country that just couldn't piece it together. They were just a bad team. Selton's going to be brutally honest with you. But he doesn't know he's being brutally honest. He's just talking, and he's just saying what he actually feels. And in his head, it's not coming off as calling anybody out. In his head, he's just talking. He's just giving his opinion on things. And I don't think he's gone through the process of, somebody might misinterpret my comments as one thing over the other. I don't think his intention was to call the other players out. I think his intention was, I didn't think they were playing 100% all the time. I'm just going to be honest with you. So that's kind of what I did. That's why I didn't think it was necessarily a blow to K-State per se.
Also from Wrestling 1982, do you have any idea who is leaving to make room for these basketball offers?
Do you see anybody other than Cardi potentially leaving? I know nobody ever really sees a transfer, but I don't see anybody leaving.
I don't, unless the asterisk here is there's some kind of grade problem with one of the new guys. And
yeah,
I don't know what this whole situation with campus shutting down and going to online learning, that takes a lot of discipline, and nobody from the basketball office is looking over your shoulder making sure you go to class. That's going to be something across all college sports. What happens to the grades? I mean, what if a professor decides to run the online as stringently as attendance and starts flunking people left and right because they weren't tapping into their Zoom or whatever they're doing? There's other scenarios. I mean, a player could say, hey, I liked Manhattan, I liked K-State, but it just didn't work. I want to go back closer to home. And I don't know who that would be, but because I think all four of the newcomers were legitimate. And I don't see Levi or Mike leaving. I guess if forced, Levi would be the one, but then you put a giant hole in the middle of your lineup because he's really the most physically developed player you have returning on your team. That's it.
And I don't think Levi and Mike are necessarily all-stars that are going to make you great. But I also don't think it's worth running those two off to further set back the program and bring in more freshmen. I mean, then you're just delaying it even further. Oh, well, now we're going to be 2 years away from being good again, 3 years away from being good again. And I don't think Bruce Weber wants to be in that position. And I don't think he should put himself in that position at all.
Well, Riley, what told me that they're preparing to add another player is not just Donovan. Now they've extended the JUCO offer. And that really indicates to me they fully expect to have another opening, and they're trying to get ahead of that and not get caught with an opening and then kind of, well, we really haven't been recruiting that hard, and we're going to just take this guy, because they've done that a lot, and it's horrible. You got to be prepared better than what they are, and of course they can always maybe find a grad transfer, but man, it's getting competitive. I saw the guy from Yale. Who probably is pretty smart, I would guess. But he's got, Duke, and their schools are lining up for this guy. So if you're a pretty good senior grad transfer and a program has an opening, they're going to snap you up. And I think that's a good course of action maybe next year for this program, is to look at that a little bit. Not, when they don't have a senior class, is maybe to add some leadership. We'll see what they do.
From Adam K63, with Brad Cord heading to SEMO, do you see Bruce promoting J.O. or even bringing Shane Southwell back to be on the staff?
I got to be really blunt here. I'm not sure what I saw from Brad Korn that screams I'm going to be a Division I head coach, even if it's at Southeast Missouri State. I haven't seen much from him. Bruce complimented his recruiting, and I'm like, well, who? I mean, what? I can't name anyone that he went out as the lead guy and kind of just wrapped things up on his own. And he's got a deep voice. He'll command a locker room, I guess. I was surprised by it. I think it works out well for K-State. I think it offers Kansas State a chance to add someone else to the mix, particularly on the recruiting trail. And I'd be opposed to just throwing it at a young guy like that. I don't think it'll be J.O. I think J.O. would have to take the Southwell route and go get another job. I would say Shane Southwell is more likely of the two, but that's still awfully early. I mean, even Brad Korn, who had played for Bruce an entire career and had served as grad assistant and had been a director of ops, he still wanted him to get 3 years of experience at Missouri State, a decent program that, at least at some points in its history, a decent program, to get enough experience to come to the Big 12. I'd be surprised if it's Southwell, but I will be shocked, stunned, if it's not someone with a connection to Bruce Weber, because that seems to be all he's interested in hiring right now.
I think SEMO got turned down by Kim English. That had to have happened. They wanted Kim English. He was at the top of the list, and then suddenly he didn't get the job. The dude has extensive coaching history. Tulsa, and he was at Tennessee recently. So I thought he was going to get the SEMO job. I hadn't even heard Brad's name tossed around. And I am a lot like Fitz there. I don't know what Brad did to get the job, really, because the posts weren't all that terrific at K-State recently. I mean, we know that. But I'll say this, maybe the change of scenery is going to benefit Brad. Let's be real. He hadn't been given a whole lot of talent to work with down low. So it's tough to really showcase your skills as a coach when you don't really have any talent to work with. And number two, maybe he just needs to do his own thing, get in his own system. I think he likes Bruce, but maybe it just wasn't a good coaching fit. I'm just spitballing here. I don't know. We'll see how he does in a new environment, but SEMO needs a whole lot of life injected back into it. And it's going to be a challenge for Brad. Absolutely. I think like Wally has kind of said in text law, it'll be the guy that SEMO fired, Ray. I think like Fitz said there, it's going to be somebody with a Bruce connection. That seems like a good fit. He's got head coaching experience, veteran coach. I don't know. Bruce is in a tough position right now because whether or not you want to believe it, the seat got a little bit hotter this year. So there's that factor. But even if the seat isn't hot at all, he's still getting near retirement. If you're a young coach outside of the tree, you're not going to hook your wagon to Bruce. So it's a little bit of a weird position here. We'll see what they do. I think it's going to be an interesting hire to follow.
Last question of the first half from TMAC77. Recently, in another post, the question arose about the financial standing of K-State with the loss of revenue from the Big 12 or from the basketball tournament and other spring sports. The other comment was about the athletic department paying money back to the university. So are we in financial trouble at K-State, or was that fake news?
No, it wasn't fake news. The budget is tight in athletics. I'm not sure how they're going to handle this. I'm not sure how the Big 12 will handle this. I mean, there's so many unknowns right now with how this all plays out. I don't quite understand how this impacts all of college athletics. They just lost a ton of money from not having the NCAA tournament. That trickles down to the schools and the conferences and all that. The university's in dire situation. People don't really appreciate Kansas State University is basically bankrupt. It can't keep up its buildings. That's why Ahern's being abandoned, basically. It can't keep up with anything, and it's in such a bad situation. Athletics, even though its budget is tight, has been operating at a profit, something the school certainly isn't doing. And so they're paying back about, last I knew, $3 million a year to the university. I personally think that needs to stop. Even though I love Kansas State, we have to figure out a way to make Kansas State more solvent, and continually raising tuition doesn't seem to do it, because then you have less students and then your overall income from tuition drops. It's going to take some tax assistance. Kansas is going to need to decide if it wants to support higher education, and maybe it has too many institutions. Maybe that's the problem, but nobody wants their institution shut. Fort Hays does a great job serving an underserved area of the state. My nephew went to Pitt State and got, a master's in chemical engineering and is now in a PhD program at a major institution. They all serve a purpose. They all have their reason, and it's just the university's in deep trouble. Athletics is trying to help out. I find it astonishing that little old K-State can make its university athletic department completely independent financially of the university. It doesn't get any student or tax money from the university, and yet it still is paying back to the university. The money's going the other way than almost any other institution in the United States. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. And I really think we're going to have to find a way to get the university as a whole on better financial footing. This is a big question for the politicians, and I don't want to get political, but we have to solve this. They're going to go to probably sports gambling real soon. Medical marijuana, I think, is on the horizon. Folks, you can't have this be like the lottery where they say it's going to be for education and then the money doesn't really show up for education. It needs to be for education. If that's going to be a commitment of the state of Kansas to educate its population, then make it about education. Do it the right way. If you're raising a ton of money from, selling gambling, profiting from gambling, selling medical marijuana or profiting from it, then let that come back into education and make college and trade schools very, very cheap again for children of residents of the state of Kansas, period. You can't just say we're going to solve education and just say it. You got to do something. K-State's in big trouble. Big, big trouble. The infrastructure's falling apart. It's competitive to get professors. That's something. Professors deserve to be paid well. I'm not saying professors are overpaid. What I am saying is it is now a very lucrative profession to get into at times, to be a professor. I mean, you look at the salaries that some of these guys are getting, some of these people are getting, and it's kind of astonishing because I always grew up in a world in which being a professor kind of was a lifestyle choice more than a financial choice, and working for the state was more of a security choice than a financial choice. And now, a lot of times, it's just the best paying job out there for these people, and it certainly in education it should be, but now we've got to figure out how to make it financially work. Good enough. That'll be it for the first half of the PowerCat podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. On the other side, we will continue this Zoom version of the PowerCat podcast. We are not in the WTC Gig Powered Studios. We're in my home dog-powered studio, and we haven't had a dog bark yet. I'll work on that in the break.
Stay locked in. The PowerCat podcast will be right back.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
My days working, taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out Care.com and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought. Care.com makes it super easy. Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
We now send it back to Fitz in the WTC Gig Powered Studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast, live from our houses, not the WTC Gig Powered Studios. Words. Man, I haven't had enough caffeine. You know it's bad, guys, when you have an entire 5-hour energy, which is like 240 milligrams of caffeine, and then you do a podcast and you say, I'm still not awake. I'm an addict.
I have to start buying my Bang online. They shut down the mall. Obviously.
The Manhattan Mall?
Yeah. It's closed till like the end of April or something like that.
Don't you have like...
So I can't get... Well, Hy-Vee doesn't always have all the right flavors, and they don't sell them in 12 packs all the time.
Hy-Vee's the worst spot to try to buy 5-hour energy. It's horrible. They barely have any.
Also, I'm also trying to stay away from grocery stores as much as possible.
Yeah.
It is a zoo. I went like 3 days before all of this stuff really started to get real, and it was still a zoo. Hated every minute of it.
Yeah, and everyone Becky went for us and then showered. I put her in a chemical bath after she got home. And said it was just weird because everyone's trying to stay away from each other. Everyone's distancing but shopping. There's not much on the shelves. I get the hiccups. It's a weird situation out there. You have to bag your own groceries so that, more people aren't handling your stuff. She told me of a residence up at Meadowlark Hills where she works that does a bleach, like a light bleach water solution for all of his fruit, and then rinses thoroughly off that to make it, because I think probably ingesting bleach would be bad. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I'm guessing. But yeah, it's a pretty good idea because I'm eating grapes and I'm like, I don't know if someone didn't sneeze on these grapes. Even though I washed them, I didn't like sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" for 20 seconds while washing them.
Do you not get them in the bag?
Someone walked in on Riley. Who is it?
Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh, that was my mom. That scared the hell out of me, dude.
Julie, go away.
Oh.
This is a professional podcast.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Seriously,
in
guys.
fairness, I am in her room.
Seriously, I'd feel bad about this, except I'm seeing everyone do it. Everyone in the world is having to do this. I thought, we'll maintain our ability. You guys will go to the podcast studio, and I will be at home. And no, this is...
Dude, that was like in like this killer movies when like you're talking on the phone to your friend and you can see the killer in your friend's house, but your friend doesn't see him. Oh, my God, that was scary, dude.
Oh, yeah, and it was your mom. Your mom is going to kill you. Don't blame her.
She wants to right now.
Don't blame her.
I've been here too long.
Exactly. To clarify with your new job, you could do this. Just stay at home with mom and dad in Beloit.
Well, I bought a desk, and so I'm waiting for it to get to my apartment. But it's not my apartment right now, and I don't want to write on a TV tray at home because I don't have a kitchen table at home, and so I'm very limited on.
Stool?
I don't have a bar stool. No, we don't have guests at the apartment, and so we just decided, hey, we have 2 TV trays. We'll just eat on the couch every night, and that's what we've been doing for a year, and it's worked out fine until now. I need a stable surface to write on, and I don't have that at the apartment, so I bought a desk. Waiting until it gets back to Manhattan. Once that happens, I'm going to go home. Until then, I'm going to ride on my parents' bar stool.
That's the story. Well, we're sponsored by The Fridge. It is the staple desk of my alcohol purchasing life. God bless Riley and other friends telling me to make sure I'm stocked up on alcohol. One good friend of mine, Toby, I've talked about it. Toby and his significant other have gone to ration coupons. They've created at home because they're going to run out of alcohol. So they've got punch cards that they have to take punches off of every time they pour it.
Oh, no.
It's desperate times out there. It's desperate times. And when times are normal, I'm going to get to the high-low and have some pizza. I need to have some AJ's. I need to figure out what delivery service delivers AJ's and do that.
Like Eat Street.
Eat Street?
Yeah, Eat Street. Eat Street does it. We do it a lot.
DoorDash keeps sending me free coupons, probably because last time they royally screwed up my order. I'm nervous about doing even that. I mean, seriously.
It's kind of the same thing, is it not?
The pizza guy, and Becky had to get it from the door, but I'm like, I don't know who handled this bottle of pop. I don't know who handled this box of pizza.
Yeah, that's where you got to kind of draw the line on like how much are you willing to put up with, you know?
I have to be careful. I have to be really careful with my situation, and not just cancer. I don't know if you folks have noticed, but I'm fat and old. Probably not in the best cardiovascular condition of my life. Well, I know I'm not. I'm probably in the worst cardiovascular situation of my life because I haven't been able to exercise for 2 years without just zapping me. So, okay. Well, Zoom didn't cut us off. Zoom put us into bonus time, apparently. Zoom is kicking ass. I think I will get Zoom now just because Zoom is awesome and it's fun to say.
Zoom's dope.
This actually sounds. This sounds okay, Zoomer. This actually sounds okay considering the options, and this is not a bad way to do a little radio because we can actually see each other, and I can flip off my co-host whenever I want, like we're in person.
I can just shut my screen off if I wanted to and do whatever I want to you.
We're sponsored by The Fridge, and here are your questions from Wabash Station as we plunge into other non-basketball topics. Here's Zach.
From Wildcat Pilot 88, how difficult will Chuck Lilly's transition be for him to start identifying talent and recruiting to K-State instead of Clemson? Will he have to lower his standards from what he was used to?
I mean, yeah, I don't think he's coming into this job going, oh, we're going to get Clemson talent to K-State. Like, he's a smart guy. I think he's aware of the reason that he got what he got at Clemson. But I also don't, I also don't think that means he's going to suddenly start recruiting just 2 stars. Oh, I'm at Kansas State, so I can't recruit all that well. No, I mean, I bet he swings for the fences on a few guys. Maybe not 5-star recruits down in South Carolina or anything like that, but why not take a shot on a 4-star out of Florida? Who knows what you can do? Or, that's half the reason you go to a school like Clemson and hire somebody like that, is because they have the relationships with schools out there. They have relationships with some of those athletes, and they can get you your foot into the door of areas you haven't been yet. It's a great hire. It's one that probably a lot of people glossed over initially and didn't pay much attention to, but this is what we've been talking about for however many months Chris Klieman's been on the job now. He's going to get more help in the recruiting area alongside with Taylor Bratt, and they've finally gotten it. And I think it's going to benefit him. I think you're going to see an uptick. Now, when I say uptick also, that doesn't mean suddenly K-State's going to go from 7th or 8th in the Big 12 to 3rd or 4th or 2nd. I'm not saying that, but the talent level is going to go up. It's like basketball. Instead of getting low 3 stars, they're now getting high 3 stars, maybe a fringe 4-star every now and then. That's what we need to see more out of football, and I think they're going to get there eventually.
I agree. I don't think in anything, whether it's recruiting or job hunting or dating, you should predefine yourself. You should pitch your pitch. Take your shot, man. Take your shot, and then if nothing comes back, you move on. That's what it's about. If you see your dream job, if you don't apply for it, I can guarantee you one thing. You're not going to get your dream job. But if you take that shot, maybe, just maybe, you get that job, or at least you get some feedback. Hey, we really like your resume. Why don't you try back with us later? So don't predefine everything for yourselves. I imagine they'll still seek out 5 stars that fit what they want, both in talent and personality, work ethic. And they'll probably end up with the 3-4 star guys, but now take your shot, man. You got to take it. You won't make it if you don't take it.
From KNED, does a COVID-19 spring practice provide more, less, or about the same amount of media access as a regular Snyder spring practice? Given how well Snyder kept things from spreading out of Veneer, should he be the national coronavirus quarantine coordinator?
Man, it's we joke, but it's so true. I'm just amazed. I think he should have been in intelligence because he can lock down information better than anyone I've ever come across. Some of the things that we would find out that somehow that football program kept a secret, or let's take this. In the example of Scott Franz, he had come out to his teammates a full year plus before it ever got public, and it was by choice it went public. I mean, that information was locked down. Now, I credit Snyder, but for creating a culture in which you respect the boundaries of your football family and your program. But I also am impressed that he had taught those people in the program to treat your brothers well. So it's amazing how he can lock down information. I think it's impressive. It's really impressive. And no, it's not much different. I mean, at the end there, we would have an early spring practice. Wouldn't even be a pre-spring football practice, keep in mind. That went away. Now we had to have a meeting like 3-4 days or practices into spring, and then we'd have maybe one before the game and then after the game. I mean, it was just and hardly anything reliable really got out. Once in a while, they'd make an announcement about injury or something. But, yeah, it's been we are well equipped to handle a news cycle in the COVID-19 world because we have been scraping for news at Kansas State for many, many years.
How have they not canceled spring practice officially yet? I don't get that.
I think they're hoping to have it in summer or late May or something. They're hoping to have some form of spring football, even if it's without a game, so that the teams can get better. I've been saying this. This is really serious right now. People are bummed that basketball shut down and all the other sports are shut down. But if it gets into football, if it starts to affect football, it's going to get a little rowdy in this country. People are not going to be happy, and they're really, really going to be restless with what's going on. And I'm not saying that you play football no matter what. I'm just saying that's a reality. People will be really upset.
From Oiler Cat 2, can groups of 10 or less be able to work out at the stadium or the rec center fields?
Technically, yeah, I think. But I don't think anyone wants to do it.
Yeah, I'm guessing they technically can. Honestly, I don't know the answer. Wait, did he say rec center?
He said rec center fields, but I'm assuming just practice
the rec shut
in general.
Down.
Yeah, well, the fields are open, but the practice fields, I guess in theory, you could have 10 players out there stretched from, sideline to sideline running. So they've got a good 6 feet between them and a coach or two out there. You could socially distance and condition. You really could. But that would require them coming back, flying, traveling. Them all being on spring break when this hit means they're all at home. And if they weren't at home, they went home. So now that's out of the bottle, and it's hard to put it back in. You have to get to a world in which these kids can travel back to Manhattan, Kansas without being threatened by what's out there, and that includes airlines, which we may not have for much longer. We may not have air travel in America anymore because they're all about to go broke because nobody's flying. But I'm finding it hard to feel sympathy for them when they've gouged us. And United, you can still go out of business. I know how you screwed me with the Texas Bowl. I remember. If you want to refund my $500 you double charged me because you lied to me on something, you could do that, and then maybe I would consider standing up for you.
A kid like Christian Moore, new tight end. Well, he literally can't leave the state, or he's in California. He's locked down, man. So he can't come back. It's a really weird time because even if the NCAA came out right now and said student athletes can lift in their facilities and they can work out on the field and things like that, like Fitz said, you still got to get them back, and nobody is wanting to come back right now unless they're driving themselves, and you ain't going to be driving yourself if you're from California. That's for damn sure.
Especially when you got to pump gas and who knows who's touched it. Great tip I picked up from my sister. If you have a dog and you have the little doggy bags, for the poop pickup, they fit over your hand really nice. Throw some in your car when you pump gas. You can then put one in.
It's a good idea.
Touch the bag, throw the bag away, get back in your car. Yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's a real mess. It's so much to be sorted through, and I wish I had more answers, but nobody does on a lot of this stuff.
From Gato Blanco in Mexico.
That, by the way, is Spanish for giant, scary virus in Mexico.
White cat, but okay.
Close enough.
Any updates on if they are going to redshirt all spring athletes?
Ooh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it.
I thought the NCAA said they were. That they were going to extend everybody by a year.
Like it never happened.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Is this year never happened. Yeah, if you're a spring athlete and you didn't have your competitive season, at least what we would expect to have. I mean, baseball started, other sports have started. But if you didn't really have the competitive season, then it just never happened. You didn't expire a year of your eligibility at all. That's a most fair way to handle it. That is probably Daphne. Daphne is barking in the background because something happened in the world. You know this.
That's probably a good idea.
You know this, guys. Every time you come over, Daphne runs laps around the table freaking out, and dude's like, hey, love me, love me, love me.
That's fair. That's fair.
From Wildcat Engineer, decades ago, for a short period of time, we had a searchlight with the PowerCat on it. This copied the bat signal. What happened to that searchlight?
I never knew we had one.
I didn't know we had one either.
I know. I think it was.
I was hoping you'd know, Fitz.
Running joke.
In town?
Yeah, I don't think
This was a thing in town?
I don't know that there ever was one. I think they're illegal unless you have some reason to do it. I think people had them, but they mess with planes.
And there's never a reason to do it. What are you going to try to summon, a man and a cat head? Like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing?
I'm not familiar with them ever really actually having one. I think people just wanted one. If they did, we need to bring it back because we need Willie to save us all. Because I don't think it's been disproven that a man with a cat head can't solve this virus. There's no science to say it can't happen. So let's do it.
It's fair.
Now there was a cat train video where it started off where Willie was summoned by the bat signal, and they used like the Batman theme, and like he went down the elevator. Like I think this was right after he called.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Like
there's the El Roberson phone call, and then I think it was after that became the Batman intro for like a couple of years.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That was a good one.
Maybe that's what you're remembering. I don't know.
Crazy Train pounded out of the cave.
Yep.
Is that the same one?
Yeah. We need it though.
Interesting.
Next question. We get into some by Riley questions.
Right, here we go.
So hold on. BYE or BI?
BYE.
Okay.
Wow.
Goodbye, not authored by.
Okay.
Hey, Alexa, play Sarah McLachlan right now. I will remember you.
I wonder if Fitz didn't have his headphones on, it would have activated.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Siri, but I didn't want to make the phone mad.
It would have, actually. If I had this on speaker, Alexa would have done it.
From Hurt as Joe, is Riley leaving because of tension between him and Coach Fitz, and how does he respond to Fitz's allegations he was more worried about the big leagues?
Let me handle this like Frank Martin. You're either in or you're out. And he's out. He's out. You got to be here. You got to be present. Got to be with us. He's out.
It's a good way of putting it. No, I am not leaving because of tensions with Fitz. There were no tensions with Fitz. That is the short answer to that question.
No tensions. Did I tell him, hey, man, you probably shouldn't tweet that? Yes, but in fairness, my employees had said, hey, boss, hey, you probably shouldn't tweet that. So we kind of look out for each other in that area. But, yeah.
Even if we don't listen to each other.
No. Remove your damn thumb.
Next question is from No Talent as Clown.
Favorite name.
Riley, can you recount your favorite interview or conversation while covering K-State?
Well, it's probably that one time he and I sat down and I taught him all about life and puppies and rainbows. That was probably his favorite conversation he's ever had.
And how your dad got you this job?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank God.
Thank God he did. Recommendation.
Favorite interview. I mean, there's two ways I look at this question. There's like my favorite enjoyable interview, and then like the interview that I will never forget. So like my favorite interview ever was it's like two favorite interviews. Frank, technically, when I called Frank to recount the 2008 KU game, because I idolized Frank Martin as a child. And so that was really cool to talk to him, but it wasn't in person. And so if I wanted to go in person, it would have to be when I talked to Jacob Poland at Sprint Center about his career when he was there with the Sixers for a preseason game. So those were like my favorite because that was right when I was 12 to 14 and watching K-State. Then obviously get to talk to them was really cool. The one I'll never forget is a very easy answer, and it's other dude at the thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great one.
K-State gets walloped by Oklahoma. Last place, Oklahoma by 30 points. Laird Veach is pacing around the Lloyd Noble Center, and I legitimately thought he fired Bruce Weber that day. I legitimately thought we were going to be talking to Laird Veach in a post-game press conference, and I was like, I just looked at Zach, and I was like, this is going to happen. This is done. It's over. And then Bruce came down and gave us the other dude at the thing press conference. That was, and then I don't have any critics when the entire fan base was criticizing him. I'll never forget that. It was just so Because that was before everybody
hold on.
came back around on Bruce.
The entire fan base is criticizing him? I thought I just called for his firing out of nowhere. Nobody else wanted it.
Oh, yeah,
That's how I'm
actually
told
a
it
thing.
happened. That everyone wanted him to stay, and Fitz wanted him fired.
Nobody had come back around on Bruce yet, and so everybody's kind of anti-Bruce, and he says he has no critics. The only people that criticizes him is Kellis and the other dude at the thing, which was D. Scott Fridgen.
Who'd never criticized him.
My jaw hit the floor. Absolutely was just stunned. And I was like, did he just say that? Oh, my God. I don't care what I do the rest of my life. That might be the most memorable one.
Fill in the blanks. D. Scott at the prior home game had asked statistically driven questions that were not flattering to Kansas State basketball. There was no opinion in it. It was just like, you guys, here's the stats to show you suck. Can you comment on it? You know, and that was apparently too much criticism at the time. And after, I don't know, 5 years, whatever it was, he still didn't know who D. Scott Fridgen was after being in every press conference. Literally. D never missed a post-game press conference and gone to a lot of the pre-game press conferences, and he didn't know who he was. But
I won't ever forget that.
He's still
I've got to see if I still have the video on that. I think I do somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it was 3 years ago. It can't be gone.
It was 4 years ago.
It was 2017.
Was it 17?
Yeah, because that's the year they went to the NCAA tournament. Because they ripped off 4 straight wins or whatever and went to the tournament.
Yeah. Elite 8, 18, conference championship 19, and then 20, it fell off the end of the table.
That's why Laird Beach was there, because Curry had already rolled out.
No, he hadn't yet. Curry.
Well, hadn't he accepted it?
No, not yet. That was after.
Was that the day he was rumored to be on the Florida campus?
Yeah, he was rumored to be somewhere else.
Okay.
Like Curry was definitely missing. Like, it was weird that Laird was there.
Got it. Yeah, there's something weird with it.
Another question from No Talent As Clown. What's one question you wanted to ask during an interview but couldn't find an appropriate time or situation?
Oh, boy.
I needed to think about that in advance. Sometimes you run out of time, because we usually get 30 minutes or whatever is allocated. But Kenny Lanou and his staff at K-State are usually pretty good. If you really need to ask something, they'll let you get it in. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Oh, man. I mean, I never had a question for Coach Snyder that I ever thought was, like, really pressing. Honestly, probably like this year, I don't know, like Bruce kept saying, like I don't, he couldn't explain what had led to all these losses or what. I don't know. I never could basically figure out this year a way to word a proper formal question of Bruce. Just why are you this bad? Like that, that's like what you wanted to say. Bruce, why do you think the team is this bad right now? And let him talk about, whether it be recruiting or whether it be coaching or whatever. But I could never come up with a formal way to word it. I didn't want to be disrespectful or anything. I didn't want people to judge me. I don't know. Luckily we haven't had that many pressing situations, right? I mean, we've had this end of Snyder, and Dennis Dodd kind of came in and did that one for us when he came in and asked Bill to respond to claims that he should retire. We've never had a hiring press conference.
It'd be pretty self-serving of me to ask that question when I was the one who wrote the column. Bill, it's been out there in the public, that you should retire. How do you respond to me?
We've never had a hiring press conference where there were like pressing questions, man. Oh, okay. I got one right here, actually. I guess one question that I wanted to ask, but because I wasn't part of the interview, I didn't know what was happening, was after the Gene Taylor hiring, when Richard Myers basically came out and said they were going to extend Bruce right away. And basically after I heard that, because I wasn't part of that, I was over talking to somebody else. I really did want to ask Richard Myers, like, what is the justification for promising an extension without the AD getting a say in this? Because Gene's hands were tied at that point when Richard Myers comes out and says, we're going to extend him. But I wasn't part of the interview. Couldn't ask it. So that, I guess, in hindsight, but I don't really have a solid answer for that one, I guess.
Last question of the podcast from Gobo97. I don't think I've ever said that before, so welcome. In honor of Riley leaving, I thought we should do a top Riley moments in podcast history. My favorites would be the Hot Chip Challenge with Riley and Zach, the Farmers Only account that was created for him, and then the Riley and Marcus love affair. I know there are more examples out there, but those are just some of them.
Man, those are good memories. Marcus and you would go at it. Marcus and
he
you.
never had any justification for anything he said. He just said it.
Just because I feel like it.
You don't get it. And I'm like, why don't I get it? Because you don't get it. Okay.
So Marcus, my favorite was the chip because, man, that thing lit you up.
Guys, I didn't sleep till 2:30 that night. I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I like the chip because I won.
You did.
It was terrible podcasting. Let's be real. It was awful podcasting. It wasn't good without the video.
That's having to commentate. Oh, well, they're both suffering a lot. Riley more, but wait here. There's milk on standby.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man.
What was the other one? There was another one in there.
Zach?
What was the three things?
The third example.
The Farmers Only account.
Oh, the Farmers. That personally is my favorite. The Farmers Only is personally my favorite because we got a lot of mileage out of it. And I feel like it's something I can still get mileage out of because even if you go really big time and move to Nashville and into the 24/7 national headquarters at CBS Interactive Nashville, I can see you with a Farmers Only account. There's special people in Tennessee that live outside of the metro area who need them some Riley.
That was the sign to me that I was officially in. You know, like I had been around for a little bit, but I wasn't writing much. I wasn't ever on the boards. I was employed, but I wasn't a full-time or even a good part-time employee. Then I was on the podcast, and then when people started, I still don't know how they got my email, frankly. I guess it's pretty easy. You can search on the K-State database. That's right. But that was insane.
That's beautiful.
Wait, so you actually got emails?
Somebody signed me up for it.
It wasn't a joke. Someone actually signed him up. Yeah.
They went to K-State. They searched my name, found my email, and enrolled me in Farmers Only. And I was getting emails for months, even after I unsubscribed.
That's a beautiful
I didn't
prank.
get it.
That's such a good prank.
That's so good. I didn't know that.
Another one not mentioned that still to this day makes me laugh is Zach's video when he inserts Danger Cat.
Oh, yeah. Not a podcast moment, but yes.
I was doing a stand-up with Fitz, and I was doing the lead in, and I said, he's Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com, and I'm Riley Gates, and instead of Riley Gates, Zach dubbed it over and said, Danger Cat.
It was so funny because he didn't even try to sound like him. It was awesome.
That was a point. Just make it really bad.
I'm still uncertain if the brotherly battles between you and Marcus were good podcasting or bad podcasting. Probably more on the good side if you like conflict, but it was pretty entertaining.
I think people liked it because nobody disliked me a lot yet. People kind of disliked me. There was a little bit of ruffling of the feathers, and they loved Marcus. Anytime Marcus said anything, people loved it.
It's Marcus. So
I think, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So I think people liked it, but I don't know. There's got to be some other ones out there that I'm forgetting, but it's crazy. Like, we've been doing the podcast. I've been doing the podcast since, there was a time when you were sick. So me and Brett and Andrew did it. That was a weird podcast, man. And then, I don't know, I probably came in full-time podcast that next fall, I want to say, like the fall of 16. So it's been almost 4 years.
Well, you are not done with podcasting. You'll be on Friday's Overtime podcast, maybe on future podcasts. But I'm now sitting here realizing Zoom enables me to bring in anyone I want to sit into that third chair and Zoom with us. So maybe our new guy, Ryan Gilbert, will join us next week. I'll check with him. You have stuff to do, Riley. You can't just be talking to us little people.
I can give you my set hours, though.
You've got Cam Newton to write about. So they cut Cam Newton?
Yeah. I forget. They signed Teddy, I think. Teddy Bridgewater, I think.
They're going to sign that XFL quarterback, PJ Walker.
They signed him and Teddy, and they'll probably go draft somebody, I guess.
Wow.
Man.
I mean, the XFL, it's like the Chiefs XFL guy. He ain't going to make the roster.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, he played for Matt Rule. That was why he signed for him.
Yeah.
That's why he was going there.
So, yeah, we'll see what I got to write about. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I've been in the Slack channel for 3 days, and it's very fast-paced. I'll
Do you
tell
have
you
your own separate one?
Yeah.
So when we send something to the Slack channel, you guys put it into your Slack channel?
Yes, and then we put it into Asana. I will speak with you guys about it off the air. I don't think the podcast listeners probably care.
You put it into Asana? What, does it need to lose weight? Is it
Yes.
every story's in a towel but naked underneath? That's weird. Weird stuff. Man, I don't understand you big time journalists. I'm just a little K-State guy. That's it for this podcast. Just doing my thing. We'll talk to you real soon. We'll be back on Friday with the Overtime podcast. We appreciate it. And as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, the Life of Fitz podcast is out there. It's amongst us. Kelly in Vegas is out there. And coming soon on Wednesday and Thursday are Tom Keegan and Frank Martin. And then we will go every Tuesday, I think, with that podcast. So we're finding things to fill up our space, even if it's not typically what you would think a K-State sports site would be about. But we're trying to keep everyone informed with everything going on. In fact, guys, I wrote my first coronavirus story, not about how people react. The actual news story, I wrote one on Monday, as 24/7 says, hey, people are coming to your sites. Why don't you go ahead and offer them, the stuff that's going on in your market. That's it for this podcast. Thank you to The Fridge. Thank you to Tanner's and the High Low. We'll be back on Friday with the Overtime. And don't forget, every Monday we're doing the best of Overtime. Next week it'll be September of 2019. Last Monday was August, and it was pretty good, actually.
You've been listening to the PowerCat Questions podcast, presented by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
Sunday, the NFL Divisional Round, presented by Intuit TurboTax, concludes with the next chapter in one of football's epic rivalries. Patrick Mahomes makes his first playoff appearance on the road when he leads the Chiefs into Buffalo to face Josh Allen and the Bills.
This is storybook!
It all begins at 6 Eastern with the NFL Today. We can't wait for Sunday. The NFL playoffs are on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.